So, Philip, I would love for you to share with us, how your EFT journey led you into spiritual development and teaching.
You bet. Yeah. And I love being on your show and the title of it, Niko, the Heart Shine Revolution. All those words are meaningful and relevant for us all. And it actually relates to my journey with EFT and spiritual growth with my wife and partner, Jeanne Mountrose. But in the early 1990s, we were interested in spiritual growth, which led to spiritual healing. We realized that was an essential component. We were early adopters of EFT with Gary Craig. He actually wrote the foreword to our first of two books on EFT, Getting Through to Your Emotions with EFT. But we really went a lot further with that. We developed another healing modality, spiritual kinesiology, using muscle testing and healing from the soul. So they started to intertwine with our spiritual growth, how to use healing, shadow work, clearing obstacles for spiritual awareness. And each step took us one step further. We developed a spiritual coaching and healing program that we integrated what we call our brand of holistic EFT and others modalities. And then eventually, and also added a spiritual guide program, most recently becoming creators and magicians, how to use the universal laws for development. And EFT can all be used with that, as maybe we'll go a little further into that in a moment.
Yeah, because I know that a lot of people will use EFT tapping for a lot of different reasons, and
Right.
all valid. And I feel like, for myself, I mean, I actually learned about EFT through being interested in manifesting, doing manifesting
Mhm.
work, and then found out, you can use EFT to help with manifesting, but had no idea that it was going to lead me into like deep trauma healing, which then led to me being able to connect more on a spiritual level. But how do you feel like that the two go together as far as EFT and spirituality?
Well, part of spiritual awareness is connecting yourself with your soul and the higher dimensions, which are really non-physical. And in order to do that, people know you need to be in a meditative state, an open state. They've correlated a lot of brain research with parts of your brain when they calm down and stop chattering. And EFT can obviously help doing that. Even just continuous EFT, we like to do that, just doing the tapping points while you're talking. It's a wonderful, simple use of it. So those parts of the brain are uh, focused on for a higher state for spiritual development. And your heart, the heart is a big thing. The heart and the namesake of your show, and heart math and other research has showed coherence. So when your brain and heart are working together, you're in a more open state, and from there, the sky is the limit, so to speak. And so, but how to get there? EFT can help you just relax to get there and also clear blocks so you're in a more optimal state to use this in your everyday life.
Yeah, I mean, because at least for me, once I started using tapping and was able to uh, really pretty much heal a severe panic disorder, I never realized that I wasn't actually able to ever get into any kind of a state where I could access what you're calling like higher realms. I mean, I did a lot of meditation, lots of yoga,
Right.
but something about using tapping really was a game changer for me.
hmm It is. It's a wonderful tool. And again, it's the context, what you can do with the tool. We first started off using the tool for a lot of healing um, and some manifesting work and fears, a lot of emotional things. We have things that relate the body too, so there's how you can directly do it physically. And EFT can be a very generic kind of throwing things against the wall, and sometimes it works incredibly, but it's not real intentional. Uh, and it doesn't necessarily heighten your awareness or maybe even your spiritual development. But if you connect it intentionally with some of these other, we call getting through techniques and ways to access the field of pure potential in these higher realms, then it can really help you transcend a lot of things and be used even more broadly and very precisely too.
Yeah, tell me about this getting through technique. I'm very curious.
The getting through techniques was the name that we used even in our beginning process when we started off in 2000 we wrote this book is ways to identify a core issue. Yeah, so um, quick example, lady, I'm helping, hurt wrist. That's the physical level. What are you feeling emotionally? What, huh? Huh? Well, I mean, when you breathe into your wrist, what are you feeling? Well, I guess anxious. This is all unconscious. Third level, mental, belief level. What do you believe about the world? Well, let me think. What's going on? Yeah, I'm trying to get a job. I'm very anxious. I don't know if I'm going to get a job. Okay, belief. Fourth, if you can get there, a deep identity level. And when we're blocked, we have shame. So we don't want to admit shame. So it seems very off, but it's not who we are. And once you understand these bigger pictures, you say, if I'm off, I'm having shame. There's something about me. We don't normally are conditioned to say there's something wrong with me. I'm defective. I'm weak. But from our shame-ridden place, that's actually how we're operating. And once you get there, like this lady did by having a getting through holistic process very surgically, sometimes it's not always this quick. Um, that helped resolve her issue. Then you could do a very specific tapping affirmation based on what she said, not what I'm imposing, giving her language, but her words. It's very surgical and exact. And then afterwards, how's your wrist? It's my wrist feels better. How are you feeling about getting a job? I feel much calmer. So that's just a quick example of the many kind of getting through techniques which we keep developing. So the EFT is like the hammer, the tool in your toolbox. What can you do with it? Well, you could become a master carpenter, or you could just do some things like a child would do with a hammer, or anywhere in between, and keep exploring what you could do with the tool.
I love that metaphor. That is perfect, isn't it? It's just like you maybe every once in a while you hang up a picture or
Yeah,
you could like build a whole house. It just depends on your goals, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yes, we found it a very powerful. We still do a very powerful energy healing, and it appeals to a lot of people. It's something that people can relate to, and as you know, millions of people around the world have done it in many different ways.
There's something very tangible about it too. I mean,
Hmm.
because and I tell people that a lot about how it's like tapping in and of itself it's like nothing because we have to be conscious of it, that we have to have like a hammer doesn't fly up and start hammering things in all by itself. We have to have a will and a consciousness that directs it, and we're directing. I feel like it gives us a way to focus our consciousness, our attention, and it's physical, right? It stimulates meridians. It's so I think it is a wonderful way, at least for a lot of people. Um, in addition to say meditation, where especially people with trauma, because meditation can sometimes be very triggering for people with trauma.
Sure. Yeah, and that's where if you have EFT to come in, it could be a real lifesaver. You bet.
Mhm. So you mentioned the word pure potential.
Hmm.
Could you tell me more about that?
Yeah, sometimes there's different words for it. Field of infinite possibilities. Maybe that makes more sense. Uh, God's canvas, if you want to get in this sort of a more spiritual description. So higher realms, if you think of everything, and part of the universal laws that we teach and help people become aware of is one is the law of oneness, where everything is connected. And we kind of sense that. So how do you get into that place now and daily? Um, and that's that field of infinite possibilities where you can go for manifestation too. Um, and that kind of goes back to your intent, and if you're doing sort of what we call higher magic or divine magic, you're using this to connect with these higher realms where things are happening at many different levels synchronously. There are many more possibilities. And so when you put yourself out there, and I can share just an EFT affirmation we use for the uh, pure potential technique, getting through technique, you open yourself up to more possibilities. You kind of take away all the narrow blinders and fears and trying to force things, and you open up to allowing things to come through you with the help of EFT because you're now in a more balanced place where your heart and brain are working coherently and are more open to spiritual development.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just talking with a group, and we were doing a study group, and we're studying one of Neville Goddard's books, The Power of Awareness. And we were just talking about how a lot of these new thought leaders and other like mystics, that have written these amazing books, they don't really address trauma, or they don't really
Right.
address like, they just assume you can sit down and focus your mind.
Right. And you can, and you're going to carry the baggages and the traumas and the lack of moral development and so forth. And that's why there are many brilliant teachers, spiritual leaders, gurus and stuff who end up doing, exploiting people sexually or for money, and they're still very brilliant. I mean, people get, how could they do that? They can do both. They could be, a completely brilliant spiritual teacher and be exploiting someone and the people that they're teaching. They can do both. But
Absolutely.
and so the idea is, and that's where your spiritual development aligning with the universal laws and connecting, and we like to connect with higher sources, with first of all with our soul, and the core of our work is connecting with your soul's guidance and its purposes, aligning with it, and then with higher realms, higher beings, angels, higher masters, higher guides. All of that is very useful because those beings are wise and are helping you develop spiritually and morally.
Yeah, do you feel like that when we tap and we use EFT and we clear what you said, like mental emotional blocks, um, then we're able to see like other possibilities. We're able to connect with these other possibilities in the field of potential.
Exactly. So it gives you, and because otherwise you're in a very narrow, blinded thing. So if you want to manifest something or if you want to heal and you only think there's one way to do it, your healing might have to do a lot with just emotional issues, like the lady's sore, I have a sore wrist. I don't know why I have a sore wrist. I want my wrist to heal. I want it to feel better. Well, now basically she needed to get herself right on her job search. That's what she was really seeking. But because that's unconscious until you make it conscious by learning these kind of methods that we've discovered and or developed, you're just driven very unconsciously until you awaken. Sometimes it's called being asleep. My wife and I at Awakenings Institute, that's why when I say we, our nonprofit organization, um, was the Gurdjieff Spensky, a spiritual group in the 1990s where we met. And what they would call uh, people's consciousness is they'd be asleep and they would wake up. They would actually use the term like kind of like sleepwalking because you're just in this default patterns, and that comes to set points. It's another way of describing this that people might relate to. And they've done some research where just like our body has set points to regulate itself, like your blood pressure or your inner thermometer, well, we actually have set points in the way we think about things. So it tends to be default. Now, how do we think about things? Why do I choose the things I do? So someone had a nice uh, cup that said, I choose love. Well, that's beautiful. If you consciously do that, that would change often the way we were conditioned because love was very conditional for most of us. It's being loving to people who are like us, our family, our friends, you know, but not people who aren't our family and friends who are fearful and doubtful. Not to say that you need to be, wise and protective against people who might harm you. But what I'm getting to is our conditioning is what our family told us was right and is the only way, and it might have be very good. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And where did they get it? Well, it's ancestral. And also we have our past lives, things that we inherited through previous incarnations, so that's part of our karma, things unfinished business. So all of this is having us react automatically, quote, thinking that way. And until you start to wake up to that and say, wait a second, when I get stressed out and I need to medicate myself, I need to, spend money or get alcohol or drugs or something, that's not very healthy, instead of not thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think of a thermostat, because we know most of us know where the thermostat is in our house, right? And we know we can go and change where we set the temperature.
Right.
But if we don't know where the thermostat is, we don't even know it exists. We think we
Right.
have to just be where we're like, okay, well, this is it. I'm just really hot or I'm really cold. But I feel like with tapping is that it shows us, okay, wait, here, first of all, here's a thermostat and you can control, what you're experiencing. And here's the dial. Here's how you do it. And that's kind of how I see it.
That's good. And another metaphor is a boomerang. So your set point comes back to you just automatically. You throw, especially if you don't consciously change. So they did research in the 1980s that on people's weight. So someone who's overweight, if you muscle test, you use kinesiology, say they're 30 pounds overweight and say they're supposed to be 120 pounds, but they're 150 pounds, they will muscle test positive for 150 pounds. And that's a set point, even though they want to be 120 pounds consciously, but unconsciously, there's things happening, as you know. So to change your set point, to be different, you need to be intentional. And first of all, realize that's where you are and you can change it.
Yeah.
I know I used to react a lot to, we have an internet business at our gettingthrough.org for 30 years now. And t sometimes things happen to the internet if you have a business, websites have problems and so forth. There's a lot to it. And I used to be very reactive to it. Like, oh no, speaking about panicking, oh no, it's the sky is falling. What are we going to do? We're having this problem with our website. And now, and this is the interesting thing, Niko, about set points, they're predictable. They're default. And I kind of wonder, you're like, gee whiz, in some ways, we have incredible potential, but we're not very developed as a race because we keep going over the same, Charlie Brown, that missing the football game every time, falling for it. So, hey, it's predictable. Hey, I am going to react when something happens to our website. Is something going to happen to our website sometime? Of course it is. So
Right.
now I have a plan in place. Does that mean I'm completely immune and I feel fine? I feel great when something, no. But I'm not with chicken with the head cut off kind of thing. I'm not running around panicking anymore. I'm breathing, I'm tapping, and I'm not as reactive. So that's changed. I changed my set point, in other words.
I think that's true freedom when we can actually choose how we're going to respond to something that's happening to us. To be think it's happening to us. And if we can actually get that space in between the thing that happens and our response to it,
Right.
open that gap. That's
Yeah, that's where the breathing and tapping can be a real lifesaver when you're first, and then it starts, as we said, it has to be with awareness. The thing that you have a problem with is ever watching this, it's going to recur until you shift it and resolve it, right? So, it could be happening today or tomorrow, very soon. And just it's like hey, preparing for emergency plans or something, you're ready for it.
I see a lot, and people don't always think of set points like this because I know, a lot of people can have set points, like you say, for weight, for health, for money, even for like
Yeah,
income.
happiness.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there actually, and I've experienced this myself, is there's a set point for joy.
Yeah,
And
happiness and joy.
it's definitely tied to, well, at least for me, just, uh having like fear of feeling happy, the fear
Yeah.
of feeling safe, and feeling joy, which I've done a lot of work on. And I definitely can really go into joy now, but I didn't realize that my past trauma was actually preventing me from feeling safe enough to feel joy.
Right. That's a wonderful insight. That's great to share. Yeah, yeah. And that's another motivation to resolve this. And that's kind of a waking up. I mean, sometimes people will do it just because they're trying to manage pain, which is understandable. But then at a deeper level, what is this showing me? What is this teaching me? What is this here about my soul's plan? What's the bigger picture of this problem?
Yeah, because like you could just maybe you find out about tapping because you heard someone say it's good for pain and you've got
Yeah,
a pain. And then, but and you're like, wow, this really worked. What else could I use it on? And then you go down this path of starting to use it for other, maybe loftier goals. spiritual development.
Right. And that's where we've come from here, my wife and I at Awakenings Institute. What's the big picture? What's the spiritual growth? What am I here doing on earth? What's my purpose? How can I make the most out of this lifetime? How can I get the most out of it?
Do you have an answer for that question?
Yeah, the simple answer is follow your purpose. And first of all, you need to find your purpose, which is evolving and dynamic as you are, but having a sense of what you like to do. And usually, what you like to do is what you can help others to do. And your purpose is actually interesting. Your purpose is to help yours, mine, everyone is to help other people. It's a selflessness. So interesting to help yourself the most is by helping other people. Even if you're an artist, if you're doing art in a solitary place, if that's your purpose, you're doing it not only for yourself, but to develop beauty and share that with the world.
I've noticed that most people doubt their purpose or feel very unclear. They just feel
Yeah.
very unclear.
Right. And that's why we teach soul centering as part of the basis of all our work and our program and getting connected with your soul regularly. And we learn that. Uh, and we have another book called Getting Through to Your Soul that we wrote in 2000 of how to connect with your soul, and a newer book, The Loving Power of Your Soul. So that seems to be essential because once you're connected with your soul, things make sense. Not everything is perfect and smooth, of course, or you wouldn't be learning and growing if you're here on earth. But you have a sense of, hey, in the context, how, hey, I want to be a better healer so I can help other people. Say, I'm sure a lot of people watching this have something to do with healing and their purpose. How will this help me heal this current issue?
Yeah, and I think so you've got, how many books do you have? How many books have you written?
Well, over a dozen, because some of them are ebooks, some of them are manuals. It just depends. But in paperback, I think we have about seven paperbacks. Yeah. We have one called The Ultimate Paradigm Shift, which is good for the set point. It was about the set point. It's a profound book, actually.
So
They're easy to read, and they're all on Amazon. Yeah.
they're oh, okay. They're on Amazon. And you have a website that people could go and check.
Yeah, and the website would be gettingthru.org, gettingthru.org. That would be a starting place to connect with our books and our work.
Yeah, and I'll put all that in the description below in the video. What else would you like to share with everyone?
Well, one thing we could do is just to get a feeling, an experiential feeling of going to the field of pure potential. So, um, we would say, um, even you have a basic EFT, and I like to say, even though part of me has this problem, even though part of me feels anxious, even though part of me feels doubtful, whatever it is, the first part, I can now open myself up to the field of pure potential where anything is possible. Even though part of me is very good, because then it disidentifies you with the problem. You already learned something just by saying that. And what you affirm, you start to realize on the spiritual path, the words you say are very important. So everything that comes out of your mouth is a reflection of what you're thinking and what you're empathizing. So you're thinking a lot of things, but if you're actually saying it, you're putting like an extra energy on it. So that's why EFT is a great shifter. So I'm taking this energy and I'm shifting it into the field of pure potential, and there all the possibilities arise. Because right now, if you're fearful, you're probably in a ruminating hamster track over and over in a small, very place, uh, unconsciously low set point, lower vibration, etc., in wherever we're stuck. And that's, I'm not putting a judgment on anyone. We're all in that boat when we're swimming there and when we're contained there. But opening up to the field of pure potential. So we're saying, and if you want to do the side karate chop, I still like Gary Craig's original sore point. I often do that. It sort of was uh, forgotten, so people don't do that. But I like where it is and the way it feels. It's a lymph node spot. But
Right.
anyway, even though part of me has this blank fear, doubt, anxiety,
Even though part of me has this fear and doubt,
um, I now open up to the field of pure potential where anything is possible.
I now open up to the field of pure potential where anything is possible.
Yeah, and so even though part of me has this issue, um, I now open up to the field of pure potential where anything is possible.
Even though part of me has this issue, I now open up to the field of pure potential where anything is possible.
I now open up to the field of pure potential where anything is possible. So we're just happening, opening up or releasing. Could say if we're releasing the issue, fear, releasing and releasing, and under the eye releasing. And people probably know the points under the nose releasing,
Yeah, I think everyone here knows the point.
under the lip, yeah, releasing. So we're getting all a little balancing under the arm releasing. And what they don't know is we do in holistic EFT at Awakenings Institute, we add what we call the reset process. We just add 2 points, which came from body talk, balancing the left and right brain.
Okay.
So we're integrating the field of pure potential,
Just like
breathing.
with the hand like this on the top of
Yeah, so we're getting the left and right brain. So it's kind of like I say, good boy, good girl kind of thing. Yeah. Great. Good
Uh-huh.
job. And then tapping on the heart for the final part of the reset process and breathing. We do some breathing. And you just allow yourself to be in that place and you just allow that internal shift to occur. And that's really one part. We like to go deeper, and we have like a little free resource, the Pure Potential Kit the listeners can get. And you can go further into that to make some explorations in the field of pure potential and put things out there. We have a couple video demos of just some amazing things where people are healing physical things, chronic physical pain by doing this process and opening up to different things. And they could get that free resource kit. Here's the shortened URL, tinyurl.com/pure dash potential, tinyurl.com/pure potential, or
Yeah.
it's at our website, gettingthrough.org slash spiritual slash pure dash potential. That's a little longer, but the shortened one, tinyurl.com/pure dash potential. And then there's our super reality shift report. We have another different technique, which is very good for healing people from different realms, an introduction to that, and our holistic EFT manual. So I know people know EFT, but they don't, unless they know our work, they may not know the holistic approach that we use.
Yeah, that's a lot of amazing resources, and we're gonna have all those links in the description so people can go and check it out and benefit from it.
Great.
Well, you clearly have, been doing this for so long. You have such a wealth of knowledge and experience and wisdom. I so appreciate you being here and sharing it today.
It's great being with you, Nika. I love Heart and Shining and the revolution and the work you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.